There's nothing wrong with coming together as a bunch of people to recognize we need each other.
Welcome. This is episode number 11 of the Community Principle. My name's Joe Carter. Please welcome Stizor, the Community Principle. He is here today to share his perspective on the nature of nature. Welcome, Stizor.
Hey there, Joe. How you doing?
Good. All right, why don't we just hop right to it here. What would you say the nature of nature is?
The nature of nature for me principally is order and rules. It kind of explains, the basic innateness of the universe. So I would say nature follows rules and order.
Well, so how do we fit into the order and rules? What are we?
Well, how do we fit in? I think we fit in a really intrinsic way in the sense of how we understand the universe, and it shows nature to be the exact same system that we are, So for me, how do we fit in inside the universe is what we don't recognize of the universe, really.
Okay, so do you think that nature is a form of communication then, if we're part of it?
Yeah, of course. Communication is just descriptions of actions, and we are in a system, so nature itself is very clear in its description of communication. It shows us logic in its purest form, basically.
Okay, so what would you say nature is communicating?
It's communicating logic, which I know that sounds ironic to say the least, but it literally is communicating logic in a very real way to sentient beings like ourselves, humans. It's whether we want to accept that to be true or not in some cases.
So you're saying that nature is actually telling us something very logical, and that if we deviate from it, we kind of do that to our own detriment, to our own fault.
Yeah, I think we do. I think we ignore it a lot. I think we ignore nature for what it is. Nature is a logical system. We obviously exist in a logical system called the universe, and I think to ignore it is to one's own detriment.
Do you think science is objective when it deals with nature?
I would say no. I think we kind of exclude nature as some other entity in the universe, which is maybe give us our false idea of our place in the universe. We separate the system from the system, in the sense we separate biology as some special entity from the universe. I think that's a very bad idea.
And you're saying biology is part of that whole system. So if it's all connected, then is there a boundary between life and non-life?
I think the boundary is only a part of the existence, but I would say no. Because of the misconception that we have of what biology is doing in the universe. I think that's the misconception of it, really.
Okay, so you're saying that biology reflects the system, then?
Yeah, it does, and like I said, if we ignore that, it's to our own peril. It's given very clear signals to what the universe is doing, but it just so happens we are a part of the biological system, so we kind of have a bias towards biology, obviously. But the universe itself is communicating the exact same message as biology. And that's...
Okay, so you're saying the whole thing is communicating. What are the most important things you've discovered by looking at the cosmos? What have you learned, and why is it valuable?
I think it's valuable to understand systems as a whole. We have the advent of the internet and such things as this, and we have social structures, all these things in nature that we can see that are networking together and integrating with each other in different species, even for that matter. So the thing I learned is that systems are really important to our fundamental existence as the human race, and I think that's what biology and the universe shows us. I don't think the two can be separated, in my opinion, as someone who loves science, not just biology.
Right. So do you think that human beings understand what the cosmos is saying?
I think we do to a degree, but I also think that the way humans have developed on planet Earth with our, somewhat grey past history, I think we tend to ignore the real important facts that we happen to be in. I think it's part ignorance, part apathy, which is a dangerous mix, especially when you live on a rock going around the sun. I don't want to end up like the dinosaurs.
Yeah, fair enough. If we understood the universe, how would it affect society?
I think it would benefit us tremendously. I think the way we treat each other is how the world is today. If we treat each other in the sense of the system that we just elaborated on, I think we could understand each other a lot more, and disagreements wouldn't be a form of negativity the way they are today. I think there would be a way to understand where we're going wrong in the sense of communicating and understanding the system. So not all negatives are bad, in the sense that if they didn't exist, we wouldn't be able to move forward as human beings in society anyway. I mean, I think we do that naturally, but I think if we understood the system better, we would be a lot more efficient at providing each other with not just answers to questions that are profound, but just basic ones like human interactions and social structures and governments and things like that.
So you're saying things like if we break the systems we depend on for our coherency, whether that be socially or even biologically, if we, you can't really exist with your head severed. So you're saying that is a statement made by nature, and that if we understood it better, that we would be able to navigate better through life. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it's not even as much as navigating. I think for me personally, in what I've learned about physics and like yourself in biology and communities, there's no point in swimming up the river, because that gets you nowhere in that respect unless you're a salmon. But in this case of how we understand the rules of the game, it would make it a lot easier if we just paid attention to the rules of the game instead of trying to change the rules of the game. And I think humans have this tendency to try and change the rules of the game, when it'd be a lot easier not to, and just to follow them, really. And it's not a bad thing to do so. It's hard to accept the reality of the situation we find ourselves in.
Well, I wonder if some people out there would think that if we paid more attention to the rules and just operated by those rules, wouldn't we just go out and take and slice indiscriminately because nothing matters? Or do you think that there is something else being communicated about what we need in order to function?
Well, I think, I mean, to be blunt, it's extinction. That's the alternative to the scenario we find ourselves in. We don't have any other option. For me personally, the human race has to understand the system itself that we're in. To go against the system, well, systems break, and that's what will happen eventually to the human race. We will break, and that to me is like, being extinct. Like I said, that we're not the dinosaurs, but at the same time, the universe in which we live is not. It doesn't make any exceptions for our existence. But we need to understand that to be the case, and if we fully embrace the system that we're in, and communicate with each other, because it's only us that are going to do anything about it, then we should really pay attention to the system.
And you're saying that since we're all part of the system, we need to all be part of what helps each other. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I know this is going to sound basic, but it starts with the family level. It starts with human beings treating human beings with respect. It's cliche, maybe, but it starts from the ground up. If you look at atoms and all these different levels of systems, they might seem chaotic at some point in how we perceive them to be, but the human race is slightly chaotic in that respect. But there's order behind every system that we know of, just because we don't perceive them to be that way at first glance. They are. We've always known that. So it's up to us to accept that fact.
So what do you think the barriers are that if they were removed, would help us take that next leap of understanding? I'm assuming that you're thinking that we have gaps because you've said so, but if we did get it, what kind of what is it that the barriers are that would take us to the next leap in understanding and maybe making some positive changes?
I think it's fear of the unknown. I think it's a lot of things, but I would say fear, apathy as well. Like I said before, I think we need to sort these things out. It's not for the benefit of individuals, but it's also for the benefit of the human race. I mean, one person's apathy and ignorance is the whole human race's apathy and ignorance, because, as I said before, the system is built on lots of wheels and cogs. You know, if you was to say an engine doesn't need certain parts of an engine, then obviously it wouldn't work. Everybody's included in this engine.
So if we realize all that, what do we get? What's the prize?
The prize is the continuation of our existence as a species. That's the prize.
You're saying that nature is communicating a message, and the more we understand and behave according to that message, the more we have the potential to adapt to various situations in order to take us into the future. Is that a fair characterization of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it's very fair. I mean, at the end of the day, we already know these mechanisms exist. One of them is called evolution. We already know what life does. It's whether we want to accept the fact that it does it or not. I mean, we're not special by any stretch of the imagination. So we need to realize the system that's in place will either destroy us if we don't pay attention to it, which is ignorance and apathy, or we can excel and enjoy this reality, or whatever one may call it. It already invented a system called evolution. We're a part of it. The reason why we get evolution is a mechanism for continuation. That's why we have intelligence, and we're not amoebas anymore.
Would you say that we could also maybe improve our lot in some of the self-inflicted wounds that we're now doing by violating those principles that nature says, hey, if you do this, it's going to hurt? You know.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is the thing. We can actually implement these ideas or the ideals of the system right now in our very existence right now. It's nothing special. It's nothing far off in the future. We can actually implement the same ideals right now in our communities. You know, there's nothing wrong with coming together as a bunch of people to recognize we need each other. That's a system. That's why we had communities anyway. A community is based on other people sharing and caring and looking out for each other, because it's better to have that than be individuals, you know. So the whole social construct that we have as human beings reflects nature, reflects the understanding of the system of the universe. We ignore that at our own peril.
Fair enough. I don't think I can add to that. Is there anything else we missed?
Yeah, I would like to say that for us to separate ourselves from the universe and not understand that the very same mechanisms that created the universe with all its order, that we kind of don't think that applies to us. And I find that really strange in how we apply science method and how we treat each other, because at the end of the day, we are one of the same thing. Doesn't matter if you're religious or not, but I'm sure people who are or aren't can actually understand that point. Gravity affects all of us, regardless of your belief, and that's the point. So the universe will affect all of us, regardless if we pay attention to it or not.
Thank you, Stizer, for sharing today, and thanks to everybody for listening and watching, and we hope you learned something.